Once again, welcome everyone. Welcome to the PMT Club meetup. We are meeting every Saturday, and this is the platform that we all utilize to enhance our speaking skills, to learn how to speak better, to learn on topics which are not directly related to us, and also give a platform to other speakers to listen to them and give feedback. And also, very importantly, we are here to network as well. So we build our network too over here. The basic motto behind starting this platform for me was to give it as a practice stage for my students to speak and take sessions, practice and improve themselves. I have kept it open right now for other speakers as well, others from society, from colleges, from institutes, from organizations. Anyone can join, speak, practice, listen to others, network, learn from each other. So today we have two speakers and we are going to have interesting things to listen to. Jai Panchal is with us, who will be talking about Bhagavad Gita, my favorite topic, and I would love to listen to him. And Stanley is going to talk about objection handling in sales, which is another important topic for everyone who is in any profession, because sales is something which is mandatory for everyone, whether you are in a business or not. Selling is always part of any profession. You sell either company products or you sell your own services to your own organization or outside your own company. All right, so it seems to be a great gathering that we are going to have today. Before we start, I would like to quickly touch upon a very short topic related to training domain, just to give a little bit of perspective on what training is. A little bit of perspective I just want to give, that there are 4 effective training behaviors. Now we are all trainers here, so I just wanted to utilize this platform to talk about a bit on what is good behavior and what is the kind of behavior that we can have which can be more impactful and effective for our learners. So the first behavior is that we speak with clarity. I'm going to talk about 4 behaviors. The first one is clarity and organization. So whatever we speak with clarity, and if it is well organized, then the learner is able to grasp the topic well. Now, when I said that I'm going to talk about 4 topics, I gave the clarity that I am going to talk about 4 things. So it seems to be very clear and organized, right? So this is what we need to do. The second thing that we need to understand is that we need to have engagement and interaction in our session. By engagement, what do you think I mean? Can you guess?
Means both the sides should be equally contributing while discussing about a topic.
Yes, absolutely. So both the sides, everyone is contributing. We are interacting also. It's not just one way thing that we need to do, right? That is what is important. And when I did this, when I asked, what do I mean by engagement? I just displayed an example of engagement. So interaction is important, and keeping people engaged by way of question or story or some data, that is also, those are the other things that we can have for engagement and interaction. Mm-hmm. The third thing is adaptability and flexibility. So depending upon our audience, as a trainer, as a teacher, we need to adapt to the learning level of our audience. What do they need? What is their level? What is their requirement? What is their background? Based on all these things, we need to adapt and we need to be flexible. It might happen that we might be prepared about something, but the learners need something else. So we need to be flexible on changing a bit about what we have brought and what we can talk on. And finally, the fourth thing. Can you guess once again what can be the fourth thing?
Knowledge.
Any guesses?
Knowledge improvement or
knowledge improvement
or improving the skills, like
come again?
Sharing knowledge, improving the skills, anything?
Not exactly the point that I want to mention, but yeah, it is definitely important what you have mentioned, that all we can do by engaging and interacting and all these things. The point that I am going to put here is positivity. Positive environment wherein learners can learn without getting threatened or without being fearful. That is something which is important. So these are the 4 basic trainers' behavior which one should strive to have in a classroom setup for the success of a training session. So with that quick introduction on training and on the behavior that we should have and we should strive for, now I bring you back to the motto of the meeting. That is, it is not about me speaking only. I just used this platform to speak on a short topic which is related to all of us, and a quick learning that we can have, the tidbits that we can have on training. Now, I'm putting up the stage here for the speakers of the day. And as we discussed, the first speaker is Jai Panchal. Jai Panchal would be talking on Bhagavad Gita. The virtual stage is all yours, Jai Panchal.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity. So let me again introduce myself. Myself, Jai. I am from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And actually right now I'm in sales. Also I'm a content creator and an aspiring coach who want to become a trainer. Right? So my today's topic is Bhagavad Gita. What is the first word came in your mind after listening the word Bhagavad Gita? I think mostly religion, right? Because we most of time think that, oh, it is a religious book. Oh, it's just for them who want to understand the religion, who wants to go spiritual, who want to become like spiritually excited, spiritually enhanced. But my friend, Bhagavad Gita for you, not for like who is like 50-year-old, 70-year-old. Nah, Bhagavad Gita is for us who is just starting our career. Bhagavad Gita for everyone who wants to do well in life. Why? Because Krishna shared to Arjun, and let me tell you that story and let me tell you that perspective. Who was Arjun? Arjun was the warrior, who was going to go in battle. Not that who was just like spiritual monk and all. No, Arjun himself was a warrior and was a very important person for that team. So Krishna shared lesson to Arjun. So that applied to us also. That will apply to us in our life, in our whole scenario, whatever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you are doing, it is applied. Okay, so I am going to tell a little bit about Bhagavad Gita, that what actually Krishna want to tell to us, and what is actually its meaning. I am going to start with the first, in initial stages. Firstly, it's a conversation between Arjun and Krishna, Lord Krishna, right? That Arjun was confused. Oh, actually, should I go in battle or not? They are my neighbors, they are my, family members. Should I fight with them or not? Arjun was confused. Just like us, we are also lots of time confused. Lots of time the situation came and we are confused. Our mind not like ready, prepared to do that things, right? And whatever it is, we want to confuse that whether we should do business or not, whether we do this thing or not. Lots of time we had the confusion. So what the thing you need to do, all the learnings, all the answers, they're in the Gita, right? So then Arjun told his story that, oh, they are my father, they are my father of father, they are my brothers also. So how can I fight with them? Then Krishna came and he answered, he explained all the things about lots of things, about mind, about our senses, about the whole creature and all the things. Today I am going to touch upon one topic that will apply to us, which is second adhyay. Very important, and mostly it is called Gita Sar, and it is Buddhi Yoga. That your mind is very important, because I usually talks a lot about mind. That your mind is most important thing that you need, right? Whatever things you want to do, firstly you have to program, you have to understand your mind, because your mind is everything. If it's in your control, then you can do everything. In the second adhyaya, Krishna shared everything that we need to understand about our mind. So one thing that Krishna shared at the end of the second adhyaya, that lots of time it's happened that our senses, like which is eye, which is air, which is our skin and all 5 senses we have, that is not in our control, that just because of our mind. Example, let me tell you the example. Okay, so you are going to do a work, like you have 3 hours of time you set for work, but suddenly your mind tell that, oh, I want to watch TV, I want to go outside. So your senses told you that, oh, I don't want to do the work, I want to go outside, I want to go enjoy. So that is your mind, that is the mind controlling you. So that Krishna shared, if sense and sense object, whatever the sense, 5 senses we have, and the sense object means whatever it is, TV, whether other person, anything, sense object, we have to differentiate. We need to differentiate sense and sense object from each other. Then only we will do justice for ourselves. And how can we do that? That also Krishna shared with us. That is the line, Rashavarjam Rasopashye Param Drashta Nivartate, which means we need a Ucharas, means we need a vision in our life. If we don't have the clarity, a proper vision in our life, that what exactly I want to do, what is the purpose, a particular thing. I know it is like going up from your head, but it is very important. Understand my point. If you have the vision, if you have the purpose of your life, that Krishna told Arjun that, hey, what is your purpose? You are not fighting for yourself. You are fighting for dharma. You are fighting for all the universe, all the world, to set an example that always truth wins. You have to fight against wrong things. That is Arjun was doing. Same for us. We have some sort of vision. We should need some sort of vision. What is that? You need to find. If you will find that, no one can beat you, no one can control you. You need to control yourself. And again, the things that I want to share, after that another sloka that Krishna told to Arjun, that you need your dhyayato, means focus area, where actually you are focusing on, because whatever things you are focused on, that will increase. Whatever things you will focus on, that will increase. Why I spoke this twice? Because it's very important. Dhyayato, what is your focus area? Where are you focusing on? Are you focusing on your problems? Then it will increase. Are you focusing on the solution, on the positive things, on the things that you need to improve? Then that will increase. So just understand, your mind is, superpower you have. But if you will understand it properly, if you understand its science and art, that how it actually works and how it behaves, then it is superpower for you. And here is Bhagavad Gita with us, that we actually can do everything, right? And lastly, let me end this talk with a popular sloka that means we already listened, that we already know lots of things we know. what karma we need to do. And like karma is important, or we just need to do everything, right? Karmanyavadhikarasya ma phalisu kadachana ma param kar hetirku mate sangasu karmani. Krishna told you, bhai, focus on your karma, not the result, because result is not in your hand. Result is not in your hand. What is in your hand? Your karma, your efforts. So focus on that. Result is not in your hand. Maybe it will come, maybe not. But yes, there is definitely, anytime it will come. But when it will come, it is not in your hand. Just your focus should be on karma, should be that on that which is in your hand. Now let me again tell you the example, right? So you are in sales, right? Just as I am. You are in sales. So you had a target that you need to do at least 40 sales. Just for example, you need to do 40 sales. Now, what do you think, yaar? Oh, will it come? What will the sales I will be able to close? The customer will agree or not? No, my friend, that is not in your hand. What is in your hand? Learn properly about the things. Understand about your product properly. Understand the problems about your customer. What actually he or she wants to do, and how your product can help him or her, right? And then learn some sales techniques, how to close, how to handle the objection, how to do all the things, and how to talk to the customer properly. That's it. And do the calls. That's it. Follow the everything. Follow the process. You did this, my friend, result will come. So these are the some things that I want to share from Bhagavad Gita. It's very deep. It's very long. So if you please get some time, please read it. It is not a religious book. Again, I am saying it is for you. It is for you and only for you. Whatever you are doing, wherever you are, whatever your age is, and it doesn't matter. Don't think that it is only for like older people. No, it is for you, and you can read and you can understand it and you can implement it on your life. Thank you. This is it.
That was very inspiring. And yes, you rightly said that it is not a religious book. It is, of course, it is perceived as something which is linked to Hindu religion. But the fact is that when we go through Bhagavad Gita, we get to know that it is linked to our life. When we keep ourselves in place of Arjun and we consider Lord Krishna's sayings as guiding factors for us, it is our life's guiding rule book, we can say. Absolutely, that was very inspiring, and I really loved the speech, the points that you mentioned, and the fluency in which you spoke the shlokas. I'm impressed with that too. Wonderful. All right. Moving on to
very nice, Jay.
Anushri ma'am.
Yeah.
How are
Very
you?
nice. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm having throat infection. So, and I'm not feeling well also. So I'm not able to, sharing the camera. But
No problem.
just I want to listen. So I joined, and I joined very late. Apologies for that.
no problem, Anushri. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So now I'm putting the spotlight on our second speaker, who is Stanley Silvera, our sales champion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for the honor and giving me the opportunity to speak. First of
So
all,
the virtual stage goes to Stanley Silvera.
thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Stanley Silvera. I'm in sales from last 24 years. I was a teacher earlier, so now I'm coming up to this new job like of being a trainer, which will help me do both the justice to my teaching skills as well as my real estate sales training skills. So both combined, I'll be working as a trainer now. So this is one of my classes about objection handling. Let me share you the screen. Like I have one PPT which I want to share. Ma'am, can you give me the rights to share the screen?
Yes, gave it just now.
Okay. Okay, is it visible for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the first slide where I have to talk about the handling sales objection, a guide for success. Now, this will be one of the sections where you will be able to understand what is objection handling and how it will help you in sales. Like there are three different types of means about the objections. You can say that different types of objections and how to solve about the objections will be there and develop. After solving the objections, we have to develop a relationship with the customers. That is also important. So about the sales objections are not about they are not roadblocks. Most of the people feel like if the customer is objecting, that means he has not liked the project or the product, but it's not so. It is not actually. It is giving us the opportunity to solve the problem of the customer, and it shows that the customer is interested. So sales objections are not roadblocks but opportunity to build trust and demonstrate the value. By listening empathetically and providing solutions, you can convert objection into closed deals. So it gives us the opportunity to close the deal. That is the first importance of objections. Like you can build the trust. If you are able to handle the sales objection, you can build the trust with the customer. You can also identify the concern, what particular thing he is concerned of, and then you can strengthen the sales and improve the relationship. Now, what are the things you must not do if you are facing with an objection with the customer? The first thing you must not be defensive. Most of the sales people, what I find is that they are defensive. They try to avoid sales objections, and they are they go on a very they change the tone, they change the body language, all those things. So that is not to be done. Main thing is that you should be welcoming the objections and not to be defensive. And most of the salesperson, they also make assumptions. Like suppose if he is giving this type of objection, that means he is not going to purchase it, and on that basis only they are not able to give that kind of presentation or explain them the problems. Like some of the salesperson, they interrupt the customers in between while they come up with the objection, and then most of the salesperson, they dismiss the concern. Like they don't give proper idea about they don't learn about the objections, and they don't try to solve the objections. So they dismiss the concern, and then some of them, they overpromised is that they promise the things which they are not able to deliver. Like this particular 5 things, most of the sales people should avoid, and then only they will be able to solve the customer's problem. Like now, as per Mr. Ratan Tata, our great industrialist, he said, never underestimate the power and kindness, empathy and compassion in interaction with the customers. He himself felt that like if you are empathetic and compassion towards the customer, you will be able to do the sales. Now, what are the tools required for objection handling? These are the few of the tools which I have find it very useful if there are objections. Like soft skills. If you are how to speak with the customer, how to gel with the customer, then these objections will not set you back. You should have a CRM helps you to understand like the type of customers you meet, what are the actual problems you face, and what are the problems the customers have, and then you can plan those things in such a way, and then you can have a script for that which is approved by the management. Like if you find most of the customers are facing one similar problem, like you should have a proper answer to it, and this answer has to be approved by the management and the company, and then you can explain the confidently to the customer if you are aware of the problems. Like then you should have some visual presentations also with you. Like if that is the case, like now some of the customers find that the product your project is a bit far from the station and all, so you can tell them that this problem is there, and then this is currently the problem, but in the near future there will be a metro station nearby and all those things. So you should have a proper visual presentation, like what is coming where and all those things. Then financial calculations, like now suppose if the customer has some financial problems, now you should be able to calculate those things and tell him like in the near future it will be how this product will be beneficial for him. And then you should have some testimonials also. Testimonials in the sense that if you are aware that the previous customers also purchased the product and they were having the same issues, you can show that the testimonials, they also had this problem, but now this problem in the near future it won't be there. That is why this person has purchased the product. Then there are other six key techniques which you can use for objection handling. One is that you can go deeper. You can understand the customer's problem. You can ask them questions, some positive questions from the customers. You can have the data from them, evidence. You can show them the evidence that this particular problem was there previously, but in the near future it won't be there. It depends on the type of question which you are facing. So if you are already prepared, if you are plan for every objection, you will be able to answer the customer confidently. Here the confidence matters. Storytelling is one of the key tool which can be used while objection handling. Storytelling is like such that this, as I've discussed earlier, like this same problem the other customer was having and how he has solved the problem and now he is happy. So that way you have to have your own stories about your company, which you can build the trust of the customer. Building trust is very important in objection handling. Objection itself tells you that currently the customer is not trusting you that much. But by storytelling and all these key techniques, you should be able to build trust with the customer. For that, you should have to have the patience and persistence. You have to understand his requirement first, and on that basis, you have to explain it. Most of the objections are on these four bases which are there. Mostly 90% of the customers, they say it is too expensive, and some of them, they say that I need to think about it. Some say the project lacks the specific amenities, and some people, it doesn't fit the budget. So these are the key objections which the customers throws at the salesperson, and the salesperson should be prepared for these things. And how he is prepared is by addressing. Now suppose if there is a product which is a bit expensive, he feels that it is very expensive. First thing is to focus on the value. Now the salesperson on that particular front, he has to tell that what value he is achieving by paying for the product, what value he will achieve. Now in the sense that now if the customer feels that it is too expensive, you can tell them that these are the 5 different things which are there in this particular product and no other product is having. You can explain in the USP of the product. You can tell him that suppose if he is saying that it is expensive, you can tell them, yes, of course, it is not actually expensive, but then we are giving a larger carpet area. Almost all the customers, they feel that they should have a bigger flat. So you can tell them that yes, we have this particular things, we have a bigger carpet, we have better amenities, we have better qualities. By those, you can increase the value of the product. If you increase the value of the product, you will find that now he will not feel that much it is that very expensive. You can give him alternative. Now suppose if he feels that it is out of his budget, it is expensive for him, you can tell him that yes, we have other options like this particular flat, it will fit your budget. So if you have an alternative, that problem is again solved. Okay, first thing is increasing the value. Second thing, while giving him the alternative, you can show him the highlight how he is saving that. If you are giving him the option of saving the money, why is finding it expensive? Because currently he is not having that much of budget. You can tell him that initially you have to pay half of the amount, and then you can pay the later half in installments. So payment option plans, if you give him, he will feel less burden. He will not feel that that it is very expensive. And then offer guarantee, like in the near future, this particular product, whatever is the value, it is going to increase. So these are the 5 things you can do if you are facing the customer is coming up with the objection of it is too expensive. Now handling, and the customer says I need to think about it. Mostly this problem comes when they are not ready for the purchase. For those things, you have to understand that who is the decision maker, if he is the right decision maker, because some of the times the children come on the parents' behalf to purchase and all those things. So he will tell like I have to think about it, because he has to go back to his parents and take that the permission and all those things. So suggest some timelines to follow. Tell them that yes, it is better. You can take the time, but then you can give me a particular time, like when your dad will be available, so I can speak to him on the phone or on the online likewise. So this way you can solve the problem of I need to think about it. You can speak to the actual decision maker, which will help you to close the deal. So provide additional information to the person so that he will give you the opportunity to speak to the concerned person, like and then there comes an objection, I don't have the budget. Now mostly these objections are there because of he has not understand the value of the product. Now if he has understood the value of the product, then that means he wants to buy, and when he wants to buy and he doesn't have the budget, then what you have to do is that explore financial options. You have to see other options wherein you can give him the payment plan where initially he has to pay very less, so that particular installment wise he is not burdened, and demonstrate the value. This almost is the same as the previous objection, but here we are giving him other options, like to make the payment in installment or any other benefit while he can take the decision right now, like. Okay, now all about the summary, like this is all totally what you can do is that first thing, you have to listen actively what the problem is. Most of the time the salesperson is not waiting for the customers to complete this sentence. He is just going on without giving a proper solution. So if you listen actively, you can give a proper solution to the customer. Acknowledge the objection. You have to acknowledge, you have to show the customer that you have understood the objection. This itself solves the problem most of the time. Like the customer wants to be heard. Almost each and every customer who is interested in the product, he wants to be heard. Like once he is understood, as the salesperson have understood his problem, and acknowledgement gives him that yes, now we'll give a particular solution. Like ask clarification questions. This also helps in building the confidence and trust between the salesperson and the customer. If you ask few of the questions, most of the salespeople, they are afraid of asking questions to the customer. When you ask questions, it gives us more clarity to understand where the actual problem. If he finds actually the product useful, if he is happy with the product, or if it is too expensive, it is out of his budget, he will never come back, even if you give certain budget options or all. So ask clarifying questions will definitely help you in closing the deals. Then empathize with the customer. This is like like being in the customer's shoes. Like most of the time that salesperson feel like that particular customer was not interested because it is out of this budget. But most of the times what happens is that the customer is interested, but the salesperson has not understood. Like he was interested, but he could have solved the problem if he could have got connected with the customer. So this is the basic 10 minutes while you are speaking with the customer. The initial 10 minutes helps you to connect with the customer. That is important. Now addressing the objections. Many a times the salesperson feel that he has answered the questions and the customer is okay with the answers. But many a times what happens is that the customer just listen and he is not completely convinced with the salesperson, but he doesn't let the salesperson know. So it is better to provide evidence and proof. If you prove to the customer that this was the problem, now suppose if there is an example like the customer comes up with the objection, like he says that your company has delayed a project earlier, then you can tell him that yes, that was the case. You should understand which particular project he is talking about and which particular case and you should have that particular knowledge also about the product when it was delayed and all. Then you have to show him the evidence, like when it was delayed and when we have given, and now it is not going to happen in the near future. You have to show him the proof. Highlighting benefits is one of the things, and offer alternatives. So these are the things which help you in objection handling. So one of the main things, like a salesperson, our mindset is more important to determine our success. A positive mindset is the opportunity, which is the sales objection. So this was the presentation. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. Great. So it was quite eye opener for me too, in terms of like
Excuse me.
how to handle various types of objections and all. And yeah, there are certain feedback that we will discuss on. Detailed feedback thing we will take in our regular, the training session that we have.
I'm just 2
Stanley.
minutes, huh? 2
Sure.
minutes. I'll just drink water and come.
Yeah, sure. Anushri, so would you like to speak on anything without
Yes,
camera?
madam, but yeah, that is what I'm telling you. I'm not able to share camera today.
Yeah,
But yes, I will speak about for 5 minutes.
okay.
And I would like to speak about the, one of the soft skills that is, you can say as a life skill, that is time management.
Okay.
It is one of the very important aspects of, our life, that is time management. Where it will be like, it's very successful people like Ambani or very common man like us. God has given a gift of time to everyone in an equal portion or in an equal sequence, that is 24 hours maximum in a day. So it is upon us how we will make the use of the time effectively and how we will take the positive positively, and how we will prioritize our things and complete the work within the time, because it says once time passed, it never come back. So here I would like to share the 5 tips, or rather the 5 that is I learned from my own experience rather. So I would like to share here the 5 tips of time management, how you can effectively manage your time. First thing is, whenever I log out for a day, for example, I log out yesterday, and since Saturday and Sunday is weekly off for me, so on Monday, what are the things it is very important and very urgent for Monday that I need to complete. I make the list of them. Second, it will take a 5 minutes, but by doing this, you will address, or you will come to know what are the things that are very important and very urgent for you, that you will be able to focus on Monday morning. Second thing, make your note in 4 parts, like very important things, very urgent things, important things, and urgent things. So I would like to quote example here. What is very important and very urgent? Very important is, if you have your doorbell rang, then yes, it is very urgent and very important, because you have to open the door and you have to see who is the visitor at your place. Another example is, I would like to address here, like important and urgent. Like if you are having the call for one of your relative for any an emergency situation, then you have to address that situation. So it will be urgent for you, important for you. And another thing is important, means doing the exercise is important in life, but it is not that important or that urgent. If you don't do it for a one day, then it will not affect on your health immediately, but it is important in life. Similarly, you can differentiate or segregate the things or the work that is more important to you, more urgent to you, and important to you, and urgent to you. By doing this segregation, you will save a time, and you will not get pissed off, or you will not be stressed how I can handle and manage the things. Or many a times when we start our work in the Monday morning, we generally have a question in mind from, means at which stage, or from which work I have to start my day. So this will sort out your work, and you will be able to focus more on your work by doing this. Third thing I would like to, add here, that the things which you feel like it will be, just it will take 5 minutes of yours. So don't put in your to-do list rather than you finish that work there and then itself. Because when we note down the things in our to-do list, it's a tendency of human being that we generally postpone it rather than completing it. So just focus on that and complete it, though it is not important or very urgent for you for this point of time. But rather in, and if you have liberty of time to do this, at is the matter of just 5 minutes, then you can surely do and complete. Fourth tip is you prepare the calendar and you prepare a to-do list. Means what is the purpose of it and what impact it will have on you. The purpose of calendar is generally from our childhood we are having habit or our upbringing is done in that way, like we need to by heart each and everything. But thing is that in real life situation we need to memorize the thing. We cannot by heart each and everything, and we are taking unnecessary burden on our brain to keep the things in our brain. Means at that time, at particular this time I have need to I need to do this thing, then at 1 o'clock I need to do that thing. So just various apps or various softwares are there, and it's available free of cost for you. For example, Calendly is the best software which I am using, and of course in the team and in the Outlook calendars are there. So it will be act as a reminder for you, and you can note down the activity, or you can note down the scenarios in brief against which you want to save the reminders. So you will not forget also, and that task you will be able to complete within the stipulated time as well. And the final tip is take a break in between. Whether it will be a water break, just you need a break to blink your eye to see the objects and at the longer distance, or objects at the nearer distance, or to just stretch your body. Okay, what it will how it will be beneficial to you. When you are doing continuously sitting at one place and doing your work, your brain's also getting bored and you also getting tired. So if you and your brain will not be able to focus or concentrate anymore. So my suggestion is you take a break after at least 1 hour. So after 1 hour you will take a break of 5 minutes. Just get down from your seat, get down from your workplace, just have a sip of water, have something like boxing just on the floor if you are in office, or if you are working from home, just get down from your place and take a one round in your home. So it will boost up your energy. Then you will be able to concentrate and focus in a better way. And after 3 to 4 years, after 3 to 4 continuous small breaks, take a big break of at least an hour. Not possible for you to take a 1 hour break. So in this way you will be manage your work effectively and more efficiently. Please try these tips from I have personally tried it, and it enhances my productivity, and I'm out of the guilt now that how I can manage my time in a better way. And another one more addition suggestion is note down your things in an Excel on hourly basis what you are doing, because many a time we just simply seeing the reels or wasting the times on mobile. So it will act as a ready reckoner for you in which activities or which non-productive activities, though these are also important in life because it's also refreshing kind of activities for us, but to limit them we will come to know how much time we are wasting on them, and how we can restrict them by taking the effective efforts. So that's it from my side for effective time management. Thank you.
Great. That was interesting, and I will remember all those 5 tips that you mentioned. I'll try to remember, but yes, I could relate to each and every tips. Though remembering them in sequence is a little difficult, but still, I could relate to each and every tip. And we do certain things,
Yeah.
we don't do certain things, and good to know that these are the things that will help all of us in our time management and coming out of the guilt, as you mentioned, of not managing our time. Okay, we meet next Saturday. You can re-present the same thing if you want, and you can see the improvement based on the feedback that we will discuss also and all, and you work on those feedback. Based on that, you can see how you have improved also and where you need to improve further, right? So that is what you can do, or you can come up with a new topic and you talk on something else also. That is all. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
Have
Yes,
a great
thank you. Bye.
Yes, bye.